Hello, let's talk about Dragoon. My first ever job, way back in Heavensward. Dragoon is an interesting case. It's a job that's really been all over the place when it comes to its design and balance, with a lot of its power budget and previous expansions being dictated by the absurd nature of Battle Litany. Having been only nerfed since its introduction in Heavensward, seeing it finally get buffed is an absolute joy. Let's back it up a bit first. The single most important change here, Blood of the Dragon is no longer an active skill. Alright, settle down. Its effects have been turned into a trait that is unlocked at the same level you got the active skill previously, level 54, but the wording has been changed from increases the potency of jump and Spine Shadow Dive by 30% to increases the potency of jump to 320 and Spine Shadow Dive to 250. This is fine. I think this is just made for clarity, so that especially newer players don't have to do excess maths to figure out potencies. Besides, after the struggles seen in Ridorana, let's just say this will be a welcome change. The removal of the frankly arbitrary timer is of tremendous benefit to the overall playability of the job, especially in endgame content. Seriously, it's damn near impossible to overstate the magnitude of this one change. As a natural follow-on from this, Wheeling Thrust and Fang and Claw no longer require you to be under the effects of Blood of the Dragon to execute, since it's a trait now. Disembowel has had its 10% damage buff renamed to Power Surge, a funny callback to an ability Dragoon used to have. Anyway, the reason for the renaming is that our AoE combo finally applies a damage buff to us itself. Beautiful. As such, we'll no longer need to worry about applying Disembowel's buff through a suboptimal single target rotation before being able to AoE enemy mobs. A small, but very, very welcome change. Speaking of, the single target rotation remains the same as it is now. True Thrust, Vorpal, Full, Fang, Wheeling, or True Disembowel, Chaos, Wheeling, Fang. Full Thrust and Chaos Thrust get upgraded at level 86 into their far fancier looking and stronger versions, while keeping the combo strings the same. But there is some interesting stuff to know about Raiden Thrust. Previously, the level 76 trait Lance Mastery 2 stated, grants Raiden Thrust ready if Fang and Claw is executed following Wheeling Thrust, or vice versa, while adhering to direction requirements, and this buff lasted 10 seconds. The updated version states that the buff Draconian Fire will be granted if Fang and Claw is executed following Wheeling Thrust or vice versa, and this buff lasts for 30 seconds. Draconian Fire allows for either Raiden Thrust or the new upgraded Doom Spike Draconian Fury to be used while under its effects. Now, this has no bearing on the actual rotation itself, but the buff lasts significantly longer now, so it can minimize DPS losses during downtime since you'll likely still have the buff when you come back, and very importantly, the trait no longer mentions needing positional requirements. So, while you do still want to land your positionals for both Fang and Wheeling since it's more damage, it'll no longer be a strict necessity to gain access to Raiden Thrust. So you can no longer be shafted out of damage just because a boss has decided it doesn't want you to get positionals. Using Raiden Thrust and Draconian Fury will fill the new section of the Dragon Gauge called First Mind's Focus. Getting two of these will allow you to use the new Wormwind Thrust attack. It's an ability, so off the global cooldown, and it's a line AoE with the same range and radius as Gizgogel and Nostrand. It says its cooldown is 10 seconds, but that may as well be 1 second, because you're only going to get to use this roughly every 6 to 10 GCDs after its first use, depending on if you're doing AoE or single target. It'll be up a lot in AoE scenarios, so the already powerful Dragoon AoE is going to be stronger too, which is nice for when that's relevant. I'll mention this now because I wasn't sure where else to put this in the script. Piercing Talon now has a range of 20 yards up from 15 yards, and will benefit from the system-wide change of melee range attacks no longer interrupting your GCD combo string. This is fine. It's just fine. It'll give you a way to maintain uptime in the event that you need to disconnect from the boss for more than a GCD's worth of time, but you don't want to overuse this, because it will set your combo GCDs back and could potentially delay the acquisition of Wormwind Thrust. It's very much a case of, it's nice to have, if you really, really need it, but don't go out of your way to use it. Let's go to Life of the Dragon stuff now, the most important part of Dragoon these days. Life of the Dragon functions the same way it does now, with a timer on it. The timer starts at 20 seconds at level 70, giving you 2 uses of Nostron before it falls off, increasing to 30 seconds at level 78, giving us the trademark 3 uses of Nostron. This potentially makes Dragoon weaker at level 70 than it was before, as you could still get 3 Nostrons off of that level. but the trade-off is a significantly easier time playing Dragoon. No more trying to enter life at least 23 seconds left on Blood of the Dragon and losing life uses over the course of a fight, none of that. Giskogul and Lestrond, High Jump and Mirage Dive, and Stardiver are unchanged in functionality. Good, they were fine. Spine Shadow Dive has been given a second charge. Yay. I'm not really that excited by this change as some other people are. It's just fine. Spine Shadow has only ever been coincidentally used as a gap closer. Its primary function has been and will remain as a damaging ability. The real implication of this is that you won't lose casts of Spine Shadow Dive over the course of a fight as easily. For the people who asked for Spine Shadow to have charges because of its movement, you've asked for the wrong ability to have charges. A second charge of Elusive Jump would have been much more preferable, I think. I mean, not only does it not require a target, it doesn't have any damaging function, so it's pure utility. I mean, hey, they may still even do that. Come on, Square Enix, there's still time before launch! Now for the buffs. In the live letter that premiered the Job Actions trailer, they mentioned how they want every job to fit into a 60-second and 120-second rotation, with a few notable exceptions. This meant a lot of buffs needed to be changed. It is now that we can get back to the glory that is the renewed Battle Litany. Having it up so much more often is fantastic, but there is one small caveat to it that I will get back to in a bit. Blood for Blood, every time. Lance Charge has had its cooldown reduced to 60 seconds, down from 90 seconds. But its damage increase has also been dropped to 10%, down from 15%. Dragoon has always been more of a 60-second rotation kind of job, so having Lance Charge finally match that rather than being 30 seconds off every so often is huge. Dragon Sight, however, is completely unchanged. It is the same ability, still 120 seconds cooldown, still 10% for yourself and 5% for the tethered ally, and still with a 20-second duration. Life Surge, rather interestingly, has been given a second charge. Now, I'm not saying the PvE team asked if they could copy the PvP team's homework. This change is fine. It's the same thing as giving Spine Shadow Dive charges, where it'll make it less of an issue to hold the skill off cooldown if you've got other more important abilities to be weaving, so you won't lose uses of this anywhere near as easily as you can now, which is good. Now, this is very interesting, because with the changes to Lance Charge and Battle Litany, everything lines up perfectly. Presently, Lance Charge is a 90-second cooldown and Battle Litany is a 180-second cooldown. Things don't line up so neatly, so Dragoons have to follow a priority system. They have to look at when their next buff is coming up and decide whether to delay their Life of the Dragon window or to enter it immediately so that their next life window catches a buff. The goal has always been to get the most abilities under raid buffs as possible. 2 Nostrons, a Stardiver, a Giskogul, and a High Jump and its corresponding Mirage Dive. That's a lot to remember. And it's especially a lot to take in if you've never played Dragoon at endgame before. But I have good news for you. This process is going to become significantly simpler in Endwalker. So, your opener will of course feature you using all of your buffs, Lance Charge, Battle Litany, and Dragon Sight, that's a given. Your first possible life entry will come at 30 seconds, but you're not going to do that. You're going to delay Life of the Dragon, and you're going to enter it at 60 seconds in. By entering life at 60 seconds, what'll happen is you'll be in Life of the Dragon with 1 Dragon Eye banked, and you'll have Lance Charge available to use again. So, you've met the criteria for entering Life of the Dragon. So what's next? Well, this Life of the Dragon will end at 90 seconds in, when you will have the opportunity to re-enter life immediately. But as before, you're not going to do that. You're going to delay this Life of the Dragon entry as well, and you're going to push it back to 120 seconds. What's at 120 seconds? Lance Charge, Battle Litany, and Dragon Sight all up together at the same time. Something that would previously only happen at around the 6-minute mark in a fight. So now, you're back in Life of the Dragon with 1 Dragon Eye banked. This runs out at 150 seconds. What do you do at 150 seconds? You delay your next Life of the Dragon entry and push it back to 180 seconds. What's at 180 seconds? Lance Charge, yet again. This is the new loop. There is no longer any kind of big brain having to delay life of the dragon to match buffs or whatever. You just delay life of the dragon, and the buffs naturally align. Okay, yeah, you might have to use your brain a little bit if you mess up in a fight or if there's some really freaky downtime happening, but for the most part, just delay life of the dragon, and it's fine! But I have to bring myself down a little bit. Remember that pin we put in the battle litany? Yeah, let's talk about that now. As I mentioned at the beginning, battle litany's duration has been reduced to 15 seconds from 20 seconds. This can make landing all of the abilities from the list of important abilities to land under buffs quite difficult. Especially it can be quite difficult to get the second Nestrond in. Aside from that last potential hiccup, Dragoon's playability looks like it's gonna increase many times over. It's still probably gonna be one of the flashiest and most effective jobs in the game. And honestly, I'm here for it. I'm really happy with this. If they give a second charge to Elusive Jump, I'd consider this a damn near perfect job. Preliminary rating. Thanks for watching. Until next time.